how did she do this? Leroy Jenkins. This is actually the part that I'm most nervous about. Hey guys, I'm Kate. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to the next installment in the I Tried Writing Like series. The series in which I try out the routines of famous writers. Not that I actually try writing like them or replicating their style, though that would be very interesting. Maybe in the future. And in this video, I'm going to be trying to write like Maya Angelou. So one day I spent filming, one day I tried her routine and I didn't film, and then we'll kind of talk at the end about the lessons I learned and spoiler alert. The question I'm always asked on these videos is kind of like, what author's routine have you most enjoyed or have you taken the most away from? Which has made the biggest impact on you? And it's been a few weeks since I tried Maya Angelou's routine, and I think I can now safely say, it's her routine. Or at the very least, a specific part of it. But I'm getting ahead of myself. First, let's just chat about Maya Angelou's legacy. She was a badass, an activist, a poet. She wrote memoirs and speeches, and on a personal note, she's one of the few writers that I had to read in school that I like actively enjoyed. She was nominated for a Tony Award, a Pulitzer Prize, multiple Grammys for her spoken word albums. She directed movies, she wrote scripts, she was a badass. So then, you may be wondering, what was her writing routine like? Well, she got up at 5:30 a.m. and was ready for coffee at 6. Then she left the house at about 6:30 and was at work at 7. This is disputed a couple places. Some say she started work at 6:30, some say she got there and started work at 7:30, so we're gonna kind of go for the middle here, aim for starting work at 7. And the part I was most interested in, Maya Angelou used an empty hotel room to write in. And researching for an earlier I Tried Writing Like Neil Gaiman's, he said he actually stole this from Maya Angelou and tried it out a couple of times. Maya kept things very bare. She brought a Bible with her, a deck of cards, and a bottle of sherry, and she would work until about 2, maybe 12:30 if it was a bad day. A direct quote here, "It's lonely and it's marvelous." Now, something she did that I don't do is that she edits while she writes. And by that I mean if she had a good day and she came home at 2, she would take a bit of a break, hang out around the house, get her mind off of her work, and then she would revisit what she wrote that day at about 8 p.m. She would read the words aloud to her husband and kind of edit and tinker with them. And even though she read it aloud to her husband, it is noted that she really only took her editor's word on what to do, what changes to make, if she hadn't figured them out herself. Then she'd rinse and repeat for the next day. Now, I have been wanting to do Maya's routine for a really long time now, like last year pre-pandemic, but I just haven't been able to justify paying for 3 nights in order to get the 2 days worth I would need for the experiment. There's a joke in here somewhere about these starving artists. So alas, I did the next best thing. And well, you'll see when the experiment starts. Now. The last of the cold brew. Some homemade vanilla syrup. Whole milk. And instead of the Bible and some playing cards, I am going to bring my Lunar Nomad Oracle deck. I cannot fit you, Buffy. You can't fit in there. Well, you might be able to fit it. You, however, are definitely going in there. And it is now 6:26, so it's time to get on the road.
Should we move on? We should move on, so are you ready to move on?
I suppose.
I made it just in time. Woo! This will be my workstation. I do need that alarm to go off to remind me to take my medication at a certain time, but no phones. I'm actually gonna start with some personal essays. I'm really excited to be working on a variety of things today. I will not be doing poetry, however, but I was trying to think of a way. I'm like, maybe I'll need something in my fantasy series that's like a song, but yeah. So as you can see This is not a hotel. I'm also not laying across a bed, which is what Maya Angelou was quoted as saying in some other places when she got to the hotel room, was that she would lay across the bed and write like that. So much so that she said she would have an indentation in her elbows. I'm also not doing that because I don't think it would be very good for my back personally. Kudos to Maya Angelou, but I think I'm going to sit this one in a chair. So let's get started. Okay, so I got a little bit done, but the funny part to me is, so I'm working at what was once my grandma's old desk. My parents brought it here from her old house. There's all these knobs and all this stuff, but when I was looking at things, you know, as you do when you're just like, there's nothing else to, like, I'm just looking at the blank wall kind of thing. I'm trying to think of what to write next. There's a wall, and then I found playing cards. No joke. I was like, this looks like a card deck. Sure enough. And a Bible. Didn't even need to bring my own. I know part of Maya Angelou's thing is distraction. So obviously this camera's a distraction. And having stuff on the walls here are a distraction. But my hope is, since I'm staring straight ahead, it will be all right. All right, I got a page of brainstorming done, so I feel pretty good about that. Whoa. By the way, this is still just trying to connect. I haven't used it. I was using it for a light when it was still dark. It's 8:30 now, so I've been working for about an hour and a half. Does it feel much longer? Yes. Every time I do one of these, every time when it's like you can't use the internet or your phone or anything, like it's just concentrate. I realize that though I'm able to, you know, I just recently did a 24-hour write-a-thon. So though I'm able to like focus and burst, there's a lot of me just like, I don't know, browsing Reddit. I'm curious how many of the ideas that I just got, like over 20 of them, I'm curious how many that I was brainstorming I wouldn't have had if I'd allowed myself in the same amount of time to just browse Reddit, you know? And like sometimes that's idea generation, but I think also, I've talked a lot before about just like hanging in the discomfort for a bit and how bad I am at that. And so though this is not something that I find particularly practical, like I had to move a stream in order to do this today, and though it's just like not something I do regularly, I think every so often just turning off the internet for like 4 hours or just not looking at your phone for that amount of time, great, wonderful, fantastic. Or you start doing stuff like this just to feel something. No, I do think it's interesting though, because of course this isn't just something that writers have to deal with, but like, you know, students now, even working corporate stuff, like I might have had Reddit up on the other screen or on my phone. Just while you're waiting for a particular email coming in, you might scroll a little bit in between running a macro or something. So I think it's time. I should probably switch over. This is actually a moment where normally I would get distracted if I had the internet, because I'm so curious what the origin of the Joker card is. I don't know it and I want to know it. but I shan't Google it. I shan't. Oh. Pill popped. Now, back under. So it's worth noting, this is about how much work I've got done so far, that Maya Angelou also had a thesaurus that she brought with her. I don't own a thesaurus, right? As usually I have the internet, so there were a couple places where I was like, I don't know what word I want. Here I have opposite of chaste. I've also started using Leroy Jenkins. I think I used him up here too. Leroy Jenkins. As character names, since sometimes I'll just put character in all caps, but I guess I'm just feeling the funsies of it. I had speak of the devil, and then in big things I put use some other phrase here that's similar, but this person is not the devil, so the connotation's not what I want. I can't remember what the, like, I guess like a phone charger cord, but I wanted it specifically for cars, so couldn't remember what to call that. Anyways, there's just a couple things that I definitely would have Googled to try and come up with, because they wouldn't take that long, but ultimately my brain is just like not here. But so far things are going relatively well. Should I look up? I mean, the word count doesn't actually matter, other than I'm excited to go back and then at like 8 p.m. revisit these words and edit them. So I don't edit as I go along, mostly because, actually I'll get the next thing that I'll be doing while I'm talking. I don't edit as I'm going along, usually because I don't know where the story's going necessarily. That's why I call it a zero draft, right? Because it would be silly to edit words that ultimately, like, that whole subplot might go away, right? But I would love to get to a point where I could potentially edit as I was going along, because I knew everything would stay in there. Like, I'm hoping that someday that would be the evolution of my drafting process, is to get better or know certain story structure better potentially, that like this is just, you know, when I outline that I could start outlining, that I could start outlining and I would know that I would stick to my outline. So then when I start drafting, I'm like, okay, yeah, this scene may change, but it will ultimately be there. So then when I do the drafting for the day, take a break, come back and fix it. It would flow better, it would read better, and it would make, you know, future me feel better when it's ultimately the next time to revise stuff. So we shall see, Miss Maya, how this goes tonight. Whoop. Maya Angelou also brought a bottle of sherry with her to these hotel rooms, and I instead have some champers with some drunk fruit in honor of my grandma, whose desk I'm sitting at. Maybe I shouldn't do that so close to my computer. Okay, so we're now getting to the part where this is like the first scene that I imagined, or kind of what inspired this story, which is fun. How many did I write today? 1,337 today so far, and it's only 10:44 a.m. But when I go to edit things tonight, my plan is to try and edit the whole chapter through. I really enjoy the concept of having like a pretty big midday break, you know, refill the creative well, whether that's, you know, reading a book or going home and doing chores or like hanging out with your partner or your kids if you have them or whatever, you know. In fact, if I could do my routine the way that fit most naturally, I'd probably have like 3 chunks of work in the day, one in the early morning, one around the 11 to 1 time, and one again at about 7. But I tend to go to bed kind of early, and I don't know how long it would take me to edit this chapter, you know. And like almost all of this will stay because I'm so early on in the story and that's just how my brain works. So I think this is the best kind of attempt I can do at the way Maya Angelou might have edited her stuff. But still, I have a feeling that it's gonna take me 2 hours, you know, to do that. So it'll be really interesting to see. I'm also really excited to do some reading out loud of things. She would read her work to her husband. I don't think I'm gonna do that, but I might read it out loud to the dogs, or I might record myself reading it and then listen back to parts of it. I don't know. I have options. And I'll admit right now, I'm procrastinating. I don't know if I should switch projects at this point. I'm not done with the chapter. Like, I have at least 3 or 4 or 5 scenes that I know are gonna be in here that are gonna happen next, but my brain's just like, it's not even 11 yet. How did she do this? It hasn't even been 4 hours straight of concentration. And I have the benefit of trying to put my computer up in places too, so. My computer, my camera, Jesus. The interesting part will be doing this tomorrow without the benefit of having a camera to play with, so. Cheers. I believe that Maya would play solitaire in times like these. So that's what we're gonna do. Yay. Well, that was a nice little diversion, and it wasn't me staring at the screen, which is also nice. Joker, origin still unknown, on top. I'm gonna pivot to some of the ideas that I had written down and work on a personal essay. It's some stuff I haven't done in a while, but one of the things that I most admire about Maya Angelou, and there's a quote that I'm gonna butcher, but I can't look it up because I don't have the internet. She's talking about, of course, the autobiographies that she wrote, and basically like wanting to show the full picture of that, wanting to show when she'd messed up too, or like a full image of the life that she lived, rather than just this sort of curated thing. And I feel like that speaks so strongly to actually right now, when all we're seeing oftentimes is a curated version of stuff. And her quote was something about how, you know, these young children growing up hear the stories from their parents and they're hearing such a, you know, watered down version of what happened, that when they mess up, they're like, oh, I must be a terrible person because I've never heard the stories of people messing up. I've never heard the stories of when they did something bad, or when something bad happened and how they reacted, or when I've done something outside of society's norms and I feel like I'm the first person I know who's doing that and now I've messed up. When really, like, of course, everyone does it at one point or another, or all the time. And I feel like that's so important now too, because we're often seeing a curated sort of social media, especially during pandemic times, even more it feels like, where there's this honesty about how things are going, but maybe not a full honesty either. Like, it's a very interesting thing. So anyways, I figured I'd work on a personal essay, but first I'm gonna get some food. Haha. Is it a microwave burger that's falling apart? Yes, it is. It doesn't have any right to be as good as it is, but here we are at the desk. To be honest, the other part of this I don't like is just staring at the wall the whole time. I'm not a fan. I will not show me eating this, but I'll be back soon. Okay, so it is now Oh. Thanks, Kleenex. It is now 1:24. Jeez. I would say today was a decent writing day. I think I made good progress on stuff, but it was also very hard. At this point I'm sounding like a broken record or just like reiterating the same lesson each time, but literally every time I do one of these I tried writing like where they concentrate for long stretches of time, I'm just not there yet. Even though Maya brought some things with her to the hotel room, like she's mostly just alone with her thoughts. And I don't know if it's like a, oh, there's a hummingbird and a bee. Who shall win? Oh, 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 2 bees now. I don't know that you got this hummingbird. Anyways, point being, it was a slight shock to the system, so I'm hoping that the next time I do this, it'll be a little bit easier, or at least know what to expect going in. All right, I will see y'all at 8. Oh my gosh. It looks so good.
Moment of truth, baby.
What it's gonna be is what it's gonna be.
Oh, I'm trying to connect. All right, it is now 8:10 p.m. It is storming outside. Chance of hail. Something I forgot to do while I was at home. I'll have to do that on the next try when I'm not recording. But Maya Angelou used to wear her hair up a lot of the time while she was working. There's different documentation on why she initially started to put her hair up, but ultimately she continued doing it just to kind of get it out of the way. She either did it in some sort of ponytail or up in a turban. And I am back home, so no longer at the hotel. And I'm going to read my work out loud whilst trying to edit this chapter. It is in total 3,471 words, and we'll see how this goes. We will see. The boyfriend asked what I thought of Maya Angelou's routine, and this is actually the part that I'm most nervous about, even though earlier was relatively tough in terms of concentration. This one feels so counter to where I'm currently at, but it is a place I would like to be. So let's see if we can do it. I also have some Topo Chico here with me, so I can do this, 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 I can do this. With a hearty thump against the dashed glove compartment smashed open, MC strides stretching her hands and patting past papers, all while keeping one eye on the road. Finally, she grabbed hold of the lip gloss her propped for the next couple of minutes. It had been sitting in the car all day, baking, and she hoped against everything it hadn't melted. Oh yeah, I changed from third person to first, so that's fun. It was only one paragraph, but you know what? We're doing it. Yeah, you can kind of see. Damn. Georgia and Texas are just feeling my fictional dog could somewhat be described as Southern joke movie reference. I finished the first page, but I still have, well, a little bit more than the first page. I still have 4 bits that I would need to fill in. For what it's worth, it's already 9. I did also use this name generator, which I actually really liked. namegenerator.org.uk/last. And I looked up where I wanted to set the story, which I did not technically have when I first started, which will be very cool, so I'm also very tired. And I'm out of hard seltzer. Oh, to be a sausage right now. Yeah, or a little bufferoo. That's my one rhyme for trying to write like Maya Angelou. I got one. I edited 1,000 words of it. Oof. Maya, how? I will say, as tired as I am, I did actually really like going over the story now and making it better. It ended up getting closer to the vision that I wanted, and since I know it's going to be, you know, in the story, it's the opening, I feel really good about it. I think, you know, when I give it 2 months time, once I've actually completed the whole draft, and then give it the 2 months time and then come back, I'll be really happy that I've already gone through and made it read better to start with. It'll be more encouraging to continue on. So yeah, I really like it. I wish I could get to this place throughout every part of the story. So that's a someday for me. Oh, but okay, so for my non-film day, my parents were back home and I could no longer use their house as my hotel. So instead, I just worked on the bed at home. I closed the door so the little pupperoos couldn't come in, and I turned off the internet that night. I read my work aloud and edited as I went. And that's actually the whole part of this experiment that I really took away from it, that I really want to key in on, editing as I go. That's what I've been doing since. That's kind of, I don't want to say revolutionized, but it's really made a difference. I'm only doing it in one project, but it's been amazing. I'm loving it, which is not what I expected at all. I thought it was going to be terrible. I thought I was going to hate it so much. As a zero drafter, as a pantser, the idea of having to come back to my work when I'm still really not sure what's going on seems terrible. So this does require me to be a little bit less pantsy. I've plotted out, I've outlined the entire story, so I know each chapter pretty well on what needs to go in there. It's just, you know, I could still surprise myself because that is the kind of writer I am. But it's been really nice. Yeah, it's been amazing to kind of allow myself to come back to it later that night and just revisit what I wrote during the day, kind of tinker with the dialogue, plug some holes from when I was drafting, and just generally make the words better. I make sure to only do it that night so that I'm not constantly editing, but I think it's also going to be especially helpful for the second draft because the words in general will be cleaner, the whole draft will be cleaner. So if I could find a way to do this for all of my drafts, it might be amazing. I need to hold back a little bit, but it's been weeks. I love it. But that is going to be it for me. Please do comment down below. Let me know what you think of Maya Angelou's routine, if you see any similarities between her routine and your routine, and what you think about reading your work aloud later that night or kind of after you've written it, if you're a night writer, reading it aloud in the morning, etc. And what you think about the concept of editing as you go. Yes. And as always, let me know if you have a writer or author whose routine you're really fascinated by or that you really love that you'd want me to try out. But thank you all so much for watching, and thank you especially to some of my new patrons this month. Hera, Christina Puckett, Destiny Damia, Keenan Lancaster, Keish, and Amber May, and I will see you all very soon with a new video. Bye. So this does require me we're gonna see. I feel like those, what am I trying to say? I'm gonna put this here while I ponder.